My name's Emily, and at a youthful 28, I'm basking in the sweet glow of life. I share my days with my charming husband, John, who likes to boast that he's 2 years my junior. Our love story was a blissful haven, and his parents, my in laws, were no exception. A harmonious symphony played between us, and I never felt the typical tremors or strife that typically rumble beneath the surface of a daughter in law and mother in law relationship. In this delightful year of cohabitation, I had come to cherish the amiable relationship we'd cultivated with my in laws. Just as we thought we found our groove, John, my husband, had to embark on an extended business venture overseas. They say hard work pays off, and John's relentless efforts were finally acknowledged with this overseas project, a potential milestone in his career. Both my in laws and I decided to rally behind him, encouraging him to seize this opportunity, promising that we'd keep the home fires burning. And so it began, the story of just the three of us, me and my in laws. Given the robust foundation we had built in John's presence, we expected this to be a smooth sail even without him. But life often has a penchant for surprising us. Out of the blue, Catherine, John's elder sister, and her 15-year-old daughter, Karen, waltzed into our lives. Catherine was a good 8 years John's senior, which made their sibling relationship quite an age gap spectacle. Karen, John's niece, was a high school student, deep in the throes of puberty. Despite Catherine being married and ostensibly living with her husband, their unexpected arrival left my in-laws and me perplexed and slightly taken aback. The moment Catherine set foot in our home, she cast her eyes around curiously, her words dripping with a tinge of sarcasm. "So this is the new house. It doesn't look all that new, but I suppose it suits Dad and Mom just fine," she remarked, smirking as she eyed the surroundings. This marked my first proper encounter with Catherine. During our wedding preparations, she brushed off our attempts to greet her with an indifferent, "I'm not interested right now," and disappeared into the ether. She hadn't attended the initial introductions, and she had been a conspicuous absence at our wedding. And then the piece de resistance, Catherine's commentary on yours truly. "Oh, you're Emily, the one John chose, huh? You look just as plain as John, lol." Catherine was draped from head to toe in lavish high-end brands, her makeup extravagant, an unusual sight for a family gathering. Her confidence and thirst for attention were inescapable. Karen, her daughter, was adorned with a neatly applied makeup palette, rendering her quite the adorable teenager. I couldn't help but think, how times have changed. These youngsters are so endearing with their makeup on days off. As I went about preparing tea for these two unexpected guests, I couldn't help but ponder the fascinating nuances of the present moment. Catherine's arrival had indeed thrown an unexpected twist into our tranquil existence. When I asked what had brought them to our doorstep, their motives remained shrouded in mystery. Catherine dropped the bomb casually today, stating, "We'll be staying here for a while." Her words hit me like a bolt of lightning, leaving me momentarily speechless. My gaze shifted to my in-laws, silently imploring for some sort of explanation, but their eyes reflected the same puzzlement as mine. It was clear they had no idea about this either. "You couldn't just drop such a bombshell on your husband, right?" I thought, unable to contain my surprise. What about school, their home, and the abruptness of this decision? Karen and I shared a look, unable to stomach her husband's brusque words any longer. We were not about to return until he acknowledged his mistakes and apologized. Karen practically collapsed onto the sofa as if it were her own, her demeanor suggesting that she had every intention of making herself at home. Given Catherine's track record of behavior and her brash remarks, I couldn't help but question whether her husband's harsh words were born of genuine concern or caution. The past often casts a long shadow over the present, and children often emulate the values and behaviors of their parents. It made me wonder if Catherine had returned to her parents' home on a whim, seeking solace in familiarity. My in-laws tried to mediate the situation, offering reasonable advice and the potential for reconciliation, but Catherine remained stubborn, her tone childishly petulant. The car's already loaded with Karen's and my luggage, so we're staying in this house," she declared, displaying the demeanor of a spoiled child. Desperate attempts were made to convince them to return, but it was all in vain. To compound matters, Karen joined the tantrum, behaving like a kindergartner. In a final act of defiance, they knocked a clock off the table, shattering it into pieces. We allowed them to stay for a few days to prevent further domestic turmoil, but it soon became apparent that this was a grave mistake. Despite my ability to work from home, Karen and Catherine acted as if they were at constant odds. "We have a maid here, so it would be a shame not to use her," they decided. Perhaps it was youthful arrogance, but Karen's attitude was obnoxious and thoughtless. She waltzed into my room while I was working and demanded things with an air of entitlement. "The bath is already clean. All you have to do is turn on the water heater." "You can manage that much, can't you, Karen?" I replied firmly, my voice laced with a resolve not to be taken lightly. Although I had consented to their stay, I wasn't about to become their personal servant. In reality, household chores were a shared responsibility between me and my in-laws. If Karen and Catherine wanted to stay in our home, it was only fair that they contributed to the household chores. Doing chores with the expectation of an immediate bath upon returning home seemed like something ripped from the pages of an outdated royal decree. Just thinking about it, saying bath now as a teenager almost sounded like an utterance from a crotchety elder. At least that's what I pondered to myself. Karen, however, wasn't about to let my musings slide without comment. "You're making fun of me, Emily. You're so cruel," she exclaimed, then huffed off in a huff. Whenever Karen didn't get her way, she had a well-worn path to her mother's side. She'd trot over to Catherine, who would be in the kitchen whipping up a meal. If Karen so much as spotted a carrot, which she vehemently despised, she would make a dramatic spectacle out of her distaste, loudly lamenting, "Never put carrots on my plate again. They give me the creeps. I've lost my appetite." Instead of simply not eating the carrots, she tossed the entire plate aside. Moreover, despite being fully aware of our diligent trash separation system, she'd intentionally toss organic waste into the plastics bin. This selfish behavior was truly confounding to me and my in-laws. Catherine, who should have been laying down some discipline, would chime in with her own frustrations, saying, "Come on, Mom, Karen is in her growth phase. Shouldn't we be serving tasty meals? What are you thinking?" My mind raced, wondering why they didn't take turns in the kitchen. However, since their arrival, Catherine hadn't once picked up a knife, leading me to suspect her culinary skills were less than stellar. And as for Karen, it seemed her aversions from childhood had clung to her through middle school. If she were out dining with friends and a carrot dish arrived, would she kick up a fuss, belittle the food, and declare it gave her the shivers? Honestly, if she were my friend, I probably would have distanced myself from her long ago. It seemed she likely didn't have real friends, judging by her behavior. I continued to scrutinize Karen closely. She wasn't my daughter, so I wasn't inclined to bend over backward to address her dislikes. However, things eventually reached a tipping point I could no longer ignore. One day, as I diligently worked from home, I wrapped up a substantial project, delivered a design to a client, ensured all data was securely saved, and declared, "Work's done." With a sense of accomplishment, I decided to treat myself to a visit to the shopping center for an apple pie. Returning home, brimming with excitement to savor my apple pie in the cozy living room, I entered my room to find Karen perched in front of my work desk, engrossed in playing a game on my computer. She brazenly installed the game on my work computer without seeking my permission. "Hey Karen, don't touch my computer." I firmly pulled her away from the computer chair, exasperated by her audacity. "I'm in the middle of something. Leave me alone." She retorted, "Why are you bothering me? I'm in the middle of a game. Why do you have to make everything a big deal?" It seemed asking for permission wasn't high on her list of considerations when it came to other people's belongings. My fury was an inferno, and in my eyes, what I said was nothing short of reasonable, wasn't it? I mean, my work computer was a high-performance beast, more than capable of handling games, but it also housed a treasure trove of work-related data. If Karen inadvertently deleted or tampered with any of that, it could have sparked a cataclysmic ripple of problems. I had no choice but to be firm. Get out! I snatched the chair from Karen and, with a pointed click, quit the game and deleted the illicitly installed gaming data. Behind me, Karen erupted in a fit of indignation. You scum! You deleted my game data. I reprimanded her, the edges of my patience fraying. Before leaving my room, her eyes glistening with tears. It was about 5 to 10 minutes of pure tension before I breathed a sigh of relief. My work data seemed unscathed. Just then, Catherine stormed into my room, her face contorted with anger. You bully Karen. How dare you? She bellowed, and I stared at her, dumbfounded. Before your daughter gets labeled as ill-mannered and starts crying because of it, maybe you should consider fulfilling your duties as a mother, I said, my voice trembling with disbelief. Your daughter played games on my computer without permission while I was away. So, Patty, why would someone like you even need such a high-end computer? Catherine, clearly flustered, lashed out. Did you just call me an it? I hadn't previously mentioned my profession or working from home, so Catherine must have assumed that I was a homemaker, and it seemed that I was fair game for their judgments. Their mistaken assumption left me speechless. Normally, it's not safe to assume that it's okay to do just anything to someone because they're a housewife, I remarked, my disbelief mounting. Who are you to lecture me about Karen, especially being a housewife yourself? You're the one who can't fit into society. What do you think of yourself? Now do you waltz back into this house with your daughter because of issues with your husband, leeching off your parents and sister-in-law for everything? You seem more like a freeloader than me. A chilling silence hung in the air, thick with tension, but I wasn't about to back down. Shut up. I will kick you out of this house, or else I'll break your computer and everything you own. It was as though common sense was an alien concept to this mother-daughter duo. They appeared shockingly oblivious to the notion of respecting other people's belongings. If they'd shattered a clock on the very first day, who's to say my computer wouldn't be next? That knowing fear prompted me to make a firm decision. I had to leave this house. Before I leave, you won't touch anything, right? I inquired, a steely determination in my voice. Catherine nodded meekly. Yes. Just pack your things and leave, and we'll be good. I packed my cherished work computer into a specially cushioned box, gathered some spare clothes, and swiftly made my exit. As I drove away from the house, I couldn't help but wonder if this storm was a harbinger of even more chaos to come. Once I had completed a major project, I decided it was high time for a relaxing soak in a serene hot spring. Entrusting my precious computer to a reliable friend, I made my way to the spa. But as luck would have it, my in-laws returned home, and after hearing the tale as told by Catherine and Karen, they called me in shock. Emily, I apologize. We'll take care of Catherine and Karen, we promise. Don't worry, my in-laws assured me, their voices tinged with surprise. But please, make sure those two are squared away by the time I return. Perhaps have her husband pick them up or arrange for an apartment. The concern in my in-laws' voices was palpable. Catherine was giving her side of the story, and I could sense the atmosphere on the other end of the call was fraught with disbelief and astonishment. Catherine went on a tirade. What do you mean? I just got rid of a useless NEET. I should be praised. And that's when I decided to set the record straight. You don't know the half of it. This was originally Emily's parents' house. When our home got redeveloped, Emily let us live here. It's the house she inherited from her late parents, and you've kicked out the rightful owner. Catherine, evidently taken aback, blurted out, That's impossible. Emily's a NEET, right? She can't possibly maintain a big house like this. Nonsense, I retorted, indignant at their false assumptions. Emily is a designer. Didn't you see her working every day? Her computer is vital for her job. It's natural for her to get angry if someone tampers with it without permission. Their lack of knowledge about my profession, not to mention their absence during introductions and the wedding, seemed to have emboldened them to believe I was just a neat or a homemaker. Once I had completed a major project, I decided it was high time for a relaxing soak in a serene hot spring. Entrusting my precious computer to a reliable friend, I made my way to the spa. But as luck would have it, my in-laws returned home, and after hearing the tale as told by Catherine and Karen, they called me in shock. "Emily, I apologize. We'll take care of Catherine and Karen, we promise." "Don't worry," my in-laws assured me, their voices tinged with surprise. "But please, make sure those two are squared away by the time I return. Perhaps have her husband pick them up or arrange for an apartment." The concern in my in-laws' voices was palpable. Catherine was giving her side of the story, and I could sense the atmosphere on the other end of the call was fraught with disbelief and astonishment. Catherine went on a tirade. "What do you mean? I just got rid of a useless NEET. I should be praised." And that's when I decided to set the record straight. "You don't know the half of it. This was originally Emily's parents' house. When our home got redeveloped, Emily let us live here. It's the house she inherited from her late parents, and you've kicked out the rightful owner." Catherine, evidently taken aback, blurted out, "That's impossible. Emily's a NEET, right? She can't possibly maintain a big house like this." "Nonsense," I retorted, indignant at their false assumptions. "Emily is a designer. Didn't you see her working every day? Her computer is vital for her job. It's natural for her to get angry if someone tampers with it without permission." Their lack of knowledge about my profession, not to mention their absence during introductions and the wedding, seemed to have emboldened them to believe I was just a NEET or a homemaker. I continued, my voice steady. "You didn't even show up for introductions or the wedding, and then you shamelessly asked to live here. You're truly disgraceful." As my mother-in-law seemingly broke down in tears, I couldn't help but wonder how the three of them would navigate this turbulent situation. After the call, I decided it was time to contact a key individual who could potentially shed light on this perplexing situation: Catherine's husband. Intriguingly, I had worked with Catherine's husband in the past, so he answered my call in a businesslike manner. "It's been a while, hasn't it? Actually, I have a design job I'd like to request from Emily, but I had different intentions. I'm sorry, but I called for a personal matter. I've been kicked out of my house. My sister-in-law is squatting there. She's with Catherine, and they have a daughter named Karen." Catherine's husband's response was surprising. "Catherine, your sister-in-law?" It seems my sister-in-law hadn't shared any information about her family or address with her husband. Although he knew the location of our in-laws' old house, it had been demolished, and he was at a loss about how to find them. He had even considered hiring a detective. Clearly, he had assumed I was jobless, and that was why I was kicked out. "She threatened to break my computer, so I'm taking refuge now. I apologize for the inconvenience caused by my wife and daughter. I've always been warning her about her selfish behavior, but she never changes. I can't understand this." Catherine's husband was gearing up to resolve the situation. "I'm going to see them immediately. I need to settle things." But what he meant by settle was far from what I had expected. "By settle, do you mean you're thinking of leaving her?" he revealed. "Well, it turns out Karen isn't biologically mine. It'll be difficult to remain as a family with Karen if I leave Catherine." My suspicions were confirmed. Catherine had been living a lie, hiding the truth of her daughter's paternity from her husband, and the revelation of this secret would potentially lead to a divorce. My reluctant response was to provide him with my address, and soon after, Catherine and Karen were whisked away by her husband and his parents. As I returned home from the spa, my mind buzzed with questions about how life would unfold. Fast forward 2 months after those tempestuous events, Catherine reached out to me. "Hey, is everyone out?" I peered through the window, and the house appeared abandoned, like a forgotten relic of the past. "Of course," I replied. "The house has been sold." "You sold it?" Catherine inquired. I explained my plan. "I intend to live there with Karen. But John got a promotion and is being transferred to an overseas branch, Catherine admitted. As his wife, I'll be joining him abroad. And you? Are you going overseas? I confirmed, yes, we can't leave my in-laws behind, so they're coming with us. We're saying goodbye to taking care of you and Karen. As Catherine processed the reality of her situation, she seemed to have an epiphany. Why don't we try living far away from those two? In America, for instance. Neither I nor my in-laws raised any objections to this intriguing proposal. Soon enough, we expedited the sale of the house I had inherited and rented a weekly apartment, preparing for our new life in America. Meanwhile, back in their home country, Catherine had been busy weaving a web of lies, telling people that they had already moved abroad. Yet, due to their well-known dispositions, people around them simply shrugged, saying, "Well, it's no wonder they were abandoned. We won't help either. Don't contact us anymore." Catherine, struggling financially post-divorce, couldn't continue Karen's education, leading her daughter to work after completing middle school. Karen, frustrated with her circumstances, complained about her newfound responsibilities, but Catherine was no longer indulging her. As they adapted to their new, minimal life in a modest apartment, I continued to work even after relocating abroad. I cherished every moment of my loving life with my husband John and my dedicated in-laws, savoring the tranquility and harmony that had replaced the storm of the past.